evening, dear all. On behalf of the Unique Academy, I extend my fond greetings to all of you who are joining us for this webinar today. Since Sunday, we have started a series of webinars on preparation for the Civil Services exam. Director of the Unique Academy, Shri Tukaram Jadhav sir, opened this series and he spoke about the opportunities and challenges in civil services. Subsequently, yesterday, my colleague Mr. Pankaj Vatte has already spoken about how to prepare for the mains exam. And today I, Jawwad Kazi, will be interacting with you on the topic of mastering current affairs. Now, even if you have some kind of a cursory idea about the civil services exam, you would know very well that current affairs plays a very crucial role in your success in this exam. What exactly is the structural importance of this topic? What are the sources that you must use for preparing current affairs? And what should be your strategy in doing so? We will be talking about all these nitty-gritties about preparing current affairs for the civil services exam. But before I do that, I will very briefly interact with you about the civil services per se. Since Tukaram Jadhav sir and Pankaj Vatte sir have already spoken at length about the structure, process, nature, etc. of the exam, I will not go into those areas. I will rather first spend some time on why you should think about civil services as a career and what is the success mantra in this exam. And then after that, I will discuss the 3S regarding current affairs: the salience of current affairs, the sources that you're supposed to use for preparing current affairs, and then we will come to the strategy for preparing current affairs. So I hope that gets you excited. Allow me to share my screen over here so that my slides can be seen on the screen for you. Let us start our discussion for today on the topic of mastering current affairs. Let us first see why in the first place should you think about civil services as a career. You have ample opportunities before you in the corporate world or in other sectors. But still, civil services is an opportunity that has many, you can say, peculiarities or specialities which you will not find in other careers. What are these special attributes of a career in the civil services? First and foremost, my dear friends, a career in civil services, a career and not just a job. Everybody has to work to earn a living at the end of the day. A career entails much more than a job. It is not just about earning some economic remuneration for your skill, hard work, and time. Career is like a superset, and job is a subset within that. Career gives you social respect. It gives you opportunities to learn. It gives you prestige in the society. It gives you exposure to different kind of opportunities. A job is just about contributing your talent, energy, effort, and earning returns for that. Career is much wider than that. Civil services gives you a career, a complete package, and not just an opportunity to earn money. That's why I suggest that this is the reason number one that you should think about civil services. Second is the kind of exposure that these services provide you. All the 23 services that are part of the civil services exam give unmatched exposure across different sectors. An IAS officer who is serving as collector today might be transferred to a public sector enterprise. He may be sent on deputation to an international organization, or he may be sent to an educational institution also. Across his career of 30 to 35 years in the civil services, he experiences a cross-section of opportunities that enriches him intellectually and professionally. To my mind, there is no other opportunity in the country that gives you the sort of cross-sectional exposure that civil services gives you. The third and very important reason why you should think about this career is the public interface. Friends, the decisions that you take have an impact on lives of lakhs and millions of people. Your talent, energy, potential can be used to good effect for the society, for the nation. Just imagine the satisfaction of having contributed back to the society that has given you so much. Your single decision can have a life transforming impact on several lives. And that is why the public interface of these services is one of the important draws of a career in civil services. And lastly, self-actualization. A civil servant experiences myriad different types of challenges throughout his career. And these challenges, as well as the opportunities that come with them, give you the self-actualization that every learned individual seeks. Self-actualization is the fullest development of your innate potential. God or nature, whatever you believe in, has provided immense potential to every individual. It is there within you to be explored and developed. But to explore and develop it, you need to pit it against some challenges. Civil services provide you that kind of an ecosystem where that best talent within you comes to the fore and you develop it to the fullest. So for these 4 reasons, friends, I will suggest that if you are still in any kind of dual mind, then you should definitely put it to a final conclusion and try and decide to make a career in the civil services itself. You might have heard a lot about this exam, the civil services exam. And you might have also heard about the number of candidates who appear in this exam and the final number of selected ones. Sometimes these numbers do appear mind-boggling. But let me tell you, friends, a very simple formula that ensures success in this exam. Based on my experience of teaching for the civil services exam for the last close to 8-10 years, I have drawn this very simple and basic formula that will help you gauge what exactly does it take to crack this exam. This formula includes one constant and 2 variables. The constant is number 1, coverage of syllabus. UPSC has given a very clearly demarcated syllabus. The questions that are asked in prelims or mains hardly go beyond the syllabus. So whatever has been very clearly and upfront defined by the exam needs to be prepared thoroughly. It goes without saying. But often candidates make the mistake of not covering the entire syllabus thoroughly. That is one of the most fatal or suicidal error that one can do in this exam. So the first, you can say, constant of this formula is covering the syllabus thoroughly. Okay? This multiplied by a thinking mind. This I call as the first variable. So as I told you, one constant and 2 variables are part of this formula. So covering the syllabus is the constant, and I call it constant because UPSC has defined it and every candidate has to do it. The second part is a thinking mind. Now you may think that, sir, mind is basically supposed to think. What's the big deal with that? True, but applying that thinking potential in the exam process is very crucial. When you study different subjects in the exam, you must apply your mind to the concept. Like for example, if you are studying world history, while studying world history, you must be able to correlate what you are learning there with what is taking place in modern India. Say for instance, in 1813 or in 1806 to 1813, Napoleon implements the policy of what you call as continental, you can say isolation of England. Now, while that is happening, parallelly certain developments are taking place in India. The Charter Act is passed for the East India Company in India. These 2 developments are interrelated. So you must be able to apply your mind while studying a particular subject across its different dimensions. That is what I mean by a thinking mind. Now don't limit that to just one subject. You must be able to develop an interdisciplinary approach. The knowledge of history must help you to understand geography and vice versa. Napoleon and later Hitler took huge armies to Russia, underestimating the impact of Russian winter. And both of them lost the wars in Russia. So this is geography having an impact on history. So you must be able to understand concepts within the subjects as well as correlate concepts across subjects. And lastly, You must also be able to relate current affairs with whatever you study in these static or traditional subjects. So that is what I mean by a thinking mind, developing that interconnectedness or interdisciplinary approach. I call this variable for a specific reason. Variable because sky is the limit for you to develop this trait of your personality. How you think, how you interrelate things, all of this does not have any bounded limitation. The more you are able to do, the more you will be able to fetch marks in your answers, essays, interview. So that is the variable number one. So coverage of syllabus multiplied by a thinking mind. That should be multiplied by sharp articulation. Your ability to express your thoughts and ideas effectively is what I mean by sharp articulation. Whether it is in written form in mains or in oral form in the interview, your sharp articulation is going to have a very important bearing on your success. You might be having very good thoughts and ideas, but if you're not able to put it across in written or in oral form, then you will not realize the best potential that you have. And hence, having sharp articulation, both written as well as oral, is crucial. So the formula is number one, coverage of syllabus multiplied by a thinking mind multiplied by sharp articulation. I call the sharp articulation also as a variable because here again, sky is the limit for you to develop this particular skill. Now, some candidates have these variables already. They already have a very thinking mind, a mind that tries to collate across different subjects, and also sharp articulation, the ability to express in written or in oral form very effectively. But this does not mean that others who don't have it cannot develop it. If you decide to develop these qualities or traits of your personality, then you can very well sharpen your thinking abilities as well as your articulation. A time span of 1 year is more than sufficient for you to develop these variables. But it is important that you prioritize that in your strategy. And hence, I try to give you a crisp formula for success in this exam. Now, let us see this formula in action. How does it actually pan out in terms of your preparation? Here in this slide, guys, I am going to give you a schematic representation of the process of your preparation for the exam. And in that process itself, I will specifically delineate where current affairs gets connected. Okay? So let me give you the overall broad picture of preparing for the civil services exam here in terms of the schematic process and also locate current affairs specifically therein. So when you think of starting the preparation for civil services exam, the first thing that you're supposed to do is study the syllabus of this exam. Yes, very cliched, very basic, but very, very important. I can't just stop myself from emphasizing on this aspect of your preparation. Syllabus and after that, previous year's question papers are the two most important resources in preparing for civil services exam. These are the two resources that UPSC has given to you. I often call them the two gurus of your preparation. Over and over again, you must study the syllabus and previous year's question papers of the exam. Just like in our ancient times, we used to have the system of Gurukul. And the Shishya was supposed to sit with the Guru. And over the course of time, the Guru used to give wisdom to the Shishya. Now, how much the Guru would open depended on the Shraddha of the Shishya on that Guru. So similarly here also, guys, these two gurus, syllabus and previous year's question papers, they unfold their wisdom depending on how much time you spend with it. The more you read and analyze and reread these two resources, the more wisdom you will gain regarding preparation for the civil services exam. So if you are serious about preparing for it, then these are the first two things that you're supposed to do. Download the syllabus, read it thoroughly, try to break it down into smaller parts, and then see what are the different questions UPSC has asked in previous year's questions, whether it is prelims or mains. Once you gain some level of confidence that you have understood the basics of syllabus and previous year's question papers, then you can graduate to the next stage. The next stage of your preparation is basic reading. NCRTs and standard textbooks. We have provided the list of standard books or reference material on the Unique Academy's website. You can download it from there. These two very important resources will build up basic understanding regarding the concepts of the syllabus. Conceptual clarity, guys, is a very important aspect in your success for civil services. I always say that there is a premium on conceptual clarity in the civil services exam. That candidate who is clear with his concept will for sure fetch more marks in mains as well as interview vis-a-vis a candidate who is lacking conceptual clarity. Basic reading, NCRTs and standard textbooks must be used to understand core concepts that are related to the syllabus. Once you have built up a robust foundation of concepts, then you move to the next stage of your preparation, which is technical information base. Once you have understood the basic concepts, then you must then add technical information regarding that particular concept. Like say, for example, you are preparing Indian polity and you study the topic of governor. When you study basic texts, you will understand why in the first place we have a position like governor in our polity. What kind of role was envisaged for this particular post in our federal scheme? These are very basic conceptual aspects. Once you have understood these aspects, then you can go to the technical information. These are basically facts that you need to remember. Facts like how is the governor appointed? What are his powers? What are his responsibilities? What are the discretionary roles that he has? How can the governor be removed from his post? So on and so forth. These are all technical aspects regarding that concept of governor. These are available, of course, in basic textbook and study material of the Unique Academy. So first, conceptual understanding, and then after that, technical information base regarding that concept. Then at the third level comes adding current affairs related to that concept. Understanding the concept, its technicalities has to then be supplemented with current affairs related to it. Current affairs is the application of these concepts and technicalities in practice. Like say, for instance, continuing this example of governor, over the past several months, we have seen controversies regarding the way governors have discharged their functions. Like for instance, currently there is a debate regarding the governor of Tamil Nadu. He has not acceded to the advice on pardoning or commuting the sentence of the accused in a particular case. Now, here comes the technical information regarding the powers of pardoning of the governor. Okay? Then why the power of pardoning is given to the governor comes in the conceptual aspect, and the current dimension is the case of Tamil Nadu. So concept, technical information, and current dimension, all of these get clubbed together. So when you are able to build all these three layers, concept, technical information plus current affairs, that is what I call as a burger model. Okay, across your syllabus, concepts, technical information, and then current affairs related to that needs to be built up. Once you are confident about this three-stage process, that you have done your work across these three levels, then you can graduate to the next stage and attempt answer writing. Whether it is questions of mains or solving MCQs for prelims. Once you have done your spade work, then you can directly shift to writing answers or solving of MCQs. Once you have the confidence of solving individual answers, then you can test yourself of taking a simulated exam test. What do I mean by simulated exam test? Simulated exam test or practice means you solve questions exactly on the lines of UPSC's pattern. So the way UPSC frames its question for the number of marks for the specific time duration that the test is in UPSC, on similar lines, you must test yourself. That is what I call simulated exam practice. So guys, this is the schematic flow in which your preparation will proceed. And this is where current affairs gets linked in the course of your preparation. Of course, this is a schematic representation. In practice, when you do, your different parts of the syllabus will be at different levels. You might have completed something, some part of the syllabus, whereas you might be starting basic conceptual aspect on another. Okay, so this is just to simplify the process for you. In practice, across different points of the syllabus, you will be proceeding at different points of time. Now let us see the salience of current affairs in the process of examination. Let us first understand what is current affairs in the first place. A simple definition that I would like to give you here is the day-to-day events and issues. Mark the words carefully. The day-to-day events and issues in different sectors within and outside India that have an impact on our collective national life is called as current affairs for the purpose of this exam. Now let us dissect each of these phrases. The day-to-day events and issues. We are including small events as well as larger issues. A small event can be, let's say for example, in chemistry, Nobel Prize was given to two lady scientists who had contributed in developing the CRISPR technology. Now that's an event per se. The use of this CRISPR technology in genome editing is a larger issue. Okay? An issue is something which has broader aspects in terms of some technicalities, some debates, some solutions and ideas. Those are what we call as issues. An event is a small development in that context. So current affairs includes both for us, events as well as issues. Now these events could be across different sectors. They could be political, they could be social, they could be economic, or they could be technological. They could be across any sector. The sector does not matter. Also, these events and issues could be within or outside India. Okay? So sector could be any and they could be within or outside India, but subjected to the caveat or rider that they must have an impact on our collective national life. When these events or issues have an impact on our collective national life, only then they are current affairs for the sake of the exam. If they don't have an impact on our collective national life, then they are not relevant for the exam. Let's say, for example, if there is a military coup in some distant country in South America, okay? Now that does not have a bearing on our collective national life. So we don't have to bother about it. But if there are forest fires in the Amazon in Brazil, Amazon are called as the lungs of the world. They play a very important role in purifying of air. They are very rich in terms of biodiversity. So Amazon forest getting destroyed is going to have an impact on humanity, and naturally we cannot also remain aloof from it. So such an event or issue has impact or bearing on our collective national life. So events and issues in different sectors within and outside India which have an impact on our collective national life are called as current affairs. Okay? Chaliye. Now let us see what exactly UPSC wants to check through the process of the civil services exam. Guys, this exam at the core is a test of your personality. What is a personality? ज्याला आपण मराठीमध्ये व्यक्तिमत्व असं म्हणतो. ठीक आहे? हे व्यक्तिमत्व काय असतं? A personality, guys, is a sum total of different traits that an individual has. Okay? Now, UPSC wants to check or ensure whether you have certain specific qualities or traits. Now, what are the qualities or traits that UPSC wants to see? In one of its earlier notification, UPSC had itself suggested the qualities that it was looking for in the aspirant. So as they say in English, from the horse's mouth, from UPSC's mouth itself, we have what are the qualities or traits that UPSC is looking for. Now these traits are, number one, taking intelligent interest in happenings within and outside India. Taking intelligent interest in happenings within and outside India. So one of the foremost trait that UPSC is looking for in you is whether you take this intelligent interest in happenings within and outside India. Okay? So at the very core, UPSC wants to check whether you are interested genuinely to follow current affairs or no. Now, what do we understand by this phrase, intelligent interest? Okay, fine, we understood that UPSC wants to see whether we are updated or no. But what import does this phrase, intelligent interest, have? Guys, to my mind, intelligent interest is about three aspects. Okay? Intelligent interest is about three aspects. First is basic facts regarding that particular current issue. You must know basic facts regarding the current issue that is going on. Like say, for example, again taking the same example of CRISPR technology. You must know the basics of that technology, how it works, what are its applications, how it can benefit mankind, who invented that particular technology, so on and so forth. So that is the first aspect. You must know basic facts. Second, you can't just stop at basic facts. You have to move ahead. The second aspect is that you must know the different perspectives regarding that particular issue. Now, if there are some benefits of CRISPR technology, there are some shortcomings or challenges and limitations also. There is other side also as well. Okay? There is always a debate around many of the issues that are going on right now. Like, for example, to give you another example, there is a debate going on right now whether the age of marriage for women in India should be raised to 21, same as for men. Now, there are pros and cons on both the sides. Okay? So, as a candidate for the civil services exam, you must know and understand the different perspectives of that issue. What is meant by perspective here? Perspective का मतलब होता है दोस्तों दृष्टिकोण, देखने का नजरिया. ठीक है, आप उसको किस तरीके से देख सकते हैं. A particular issue can be looked at from many different perspectives. There might be a political perspective there might be an economic perspective, there might be a social perspective, there might be an ethical perspective, legal perspective, administrative perspective, so on and so forth. So as a candidate, you are not just supposed to know the facts, you are also supposed to know the perspectives. Okay? And lastly, not stopping at the perspectives, lastly, you must also have an opinion on that issue. Okay? Based on these perspectives, you must be able to develop your own opinion on that particular issue. So should India actually raise the age of marriage for women to 21, you must have an organic opinion of your own. Something that comes from within you based on your understanding of facts and perspectives. Very often UPSC asks direct questions which are opinion based. In essays also, you have to take a particular stand and argue accordingly. So unless you are into the habit of understanding perspectives and developing opinions, you find it difficult to do that. So when UPSC says you have to take intelligent interest, I'm repeating again, there are three things that you must be aware of. One is basic facts, second is perspectives, and third is opinion. Okay? So this is one of the foremost traits that UPSC is looking for, and this should make you understand how important current affairs is for UPSC exam preparation. Apart from this trait, UPSC is looking for 4 other qualities as well. Critical power of assimilation, This is the ability to actually imbibe information. Whatever you read, imbibe that information and come to a decision. That is your critical power of assimilation. Next, you must have clear and logical exposition. When you articulate, when you write or you speak, your writing or your oral communication must be clear and logical. Third, you must have balance of judgment. Your opinion must be balanced. It must factor in all the aspects, and then you should come to a judgment or opinion. That is balance of judgment. And lastly, you must show social cohesion. That is, you must have sensitivity for weaker sections of the society, as well as leadership qualities. If you are solution oriented towards problems, then UPSC or the examiner can say that you have leadership quality. You can take responsibility. Okay? So these are the 5 aspects or traits that UPSC is looking for, and all of these get connected to current affairs. You may say the first one is very clear, but how are the remaining 4 connected to current affairs? Guys, to develop these qualities, whether it is critical power of assimilation, clear or logical exposition, balance of judgment, and social cohesion and leadership, to develop all of these traits, reading current affairs is going to come to your rescue. When you read newspaper, especially editorial and opposite to editorial pages, you are able to develop these traits. It helps you to assimilate and imbibe information. It helps you to sharpen your exposition. It helps you to develop a balanced judgment, and it helps you to develop social sensitivity and leadership. Okay? Leadership quality of taking responsibility, providing solutions. So all of these traits that UPSC is looking for in a candidate can be developed by following current affairs. That's how important or central it is for your preparation. So that's why in this talk, I have divided it into 3 areas: salience of current affairs, sources that you are supposed to use for current affairs, and then we shall see the strategy that you will use for preparing of current affairs. Chale, let's go ahead. Now let us see very specifically in terms of questions and marks the importance of current affairs. If you see the previous year's question papers of prelims from 16, 17, 18, 19, you will see that consistently UPSC has asked a lot of questions based on current affairs. I have consciously not included the paper of 2020 over here. I'll come to the reason in a while. Across all these years, guys, you can see that on an average, there are 25 direct questions based on current affairs, okay? Directly which are linked to current affairs. Apart from this, there are a lot of indirect questions which are asked because of current affairs. They might seem like traditional questions, but the trigger of that question is in current affairs. If you were to ask me, I will say that generally around 40 to 45 questions in prelims examination are directly or indirectly linked to current affairs. One question carries 2 marks. So if we say 45 questions, it comes to about 90 marks. 90 odd marks in your prelims exam will be directly or indirectly linked to current affairs. And what is the cutoff generally for prelims? It's in the range of 95 to 100. So almost close to the cutoff, you will have current affairs based direct and indirect questions. That is how important current affairs is at the preliminary stage itself. Now, I did not consciously share 2020 over here because UPSC is in a habit of giving surprises. This year, UPSC changed its style and asked less direct questions, but increased the indirect questions based on current affairs. So if you see the paper, there are hardly 7 to 8 direct questions based on current affairs, but indirect questions increased even further, and in my view, around 45 to 50 indirect questions alone were asked in this particular paper. So the importance of current affairs remained in 2020 also, just the distribution of direct indirect questions was skewed. So this is how important current affairs preparation is in preliminary examination. Similar to prelims, in mains also, current affairs play a very crucial role. Direct questions are asked across different papers in GS 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are also a lot of current linked traditional questions. So there might be some issue that might be in news, and UPSC would ask a traditional question based on that. The trigger of that question is in current affairs. Like for example, 2 years ago, UPSC had asked a question on the 69th Constitutional Amendment. The 69th Constitutional Amendment, friends, is linked to the Legislative Assembly of Delhi. Now, in that context, there was certain acrimonious debate between the elected Chief Minister of Delhi and the then Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. That issue had reached the Supreme Court of India, and UPSC asked questions not once but twice over the recent 4 to 5 years on this particular development. Now, although the question might appear traditional, so to speak, but the trigger of that question was actually in current affairs. So, directly as well as indirectly, in mains as well, a lot of questions are asked based on current affairs. Then GS paper 2 and paper 3 particularly of your mains are almost entirely based on current affairs, GS 2 and GS 3. These two papers have a very heavy linkage with current affairs because they contain very discrete type of syllabus related topics where there is a lot of scope to ask current based questions. Importance of current gets extended to even your essay. There is a trend where UPSC is asking you to write 2 essays, one of which is philosophical and one of which you will have to write a GS theme based essay. These thematic essays are very often linked to current affairs. While writing philosophical essays also, you have to cite a lot of examples, and these examples often come from your current affairs. Also guys, current affairs is linked with your optional subject. Paper 2 especially of many popular optional subjects like political science and IR, public administration, sociology, so on and so forth, is heavily linked to current affairs. Also, current affairs gives you a lot of value addition content across all your papers in your civil services exam. So the long story short, guys, is that current affairs is very crucial for prelims as well as for main examination. Here are a couple of examples that UPSC had asked in recent years. Take this question here. In the light of recent controversy regarding the use of electronic voting machines, what are the challenges before the Election Commission of India to ensure the trustworthiness of elections in India? Now, that particular year, 2 years ago, the debate on electronic voting machines was going on, and UPSC asked a direct question related to it. Take another example here, this time from IR. A number of outside powers have entrenched themselves in Central Asia, which is a zone of interest to India. Discuss the implications in this context of India's joining the Ashgabat Agreement 2018. Now here, India had joined a particular agreement, and in a larger framework, UPSC is asking you or the aspirant to bring out the implications of India's joining it. So both these questions are, you can see, directly linked to current affairs of that particular year. In this fashion, UPSC asks very heavily questions based on current affairs. So this was the first segment, guys, of our talk, which was regarding the salience or importance of current affairs. We saw first what UPSC is expecting of you. Then we saw the heavy marks that current affairs have in the prelims. And then we saw its importance in mains also. Now let us proceed to the second segment of our talk, which is regarding the strategy of preparing or mastering current affairs. This is the core focus of our talk, and we will talk at length regarding how you are supposed to go about preparing current affairs. I have given you an acronym over here to succinctly explain the strategy that you are supposed to use in current affairs. I call it as the core strategy. CORE is an acronym which stands for capture, organize, reflect, and engage. So this is the acronym for CORE. Now let me explain each of these aspects briefly, and then we will go into its details in a while. First and foremost, C stands for capture. Capturing here means the current events and issues which are going on a daily basis. You must be able to capture relevant content regarding those events and issues. Okay? On a daily basis, things are going to happen, and you have to keep a track and smartly capture relevant content out of whatever is going on right now and store it. Store either in physical form or in electronic form. How efficient you are and how effective you are in terms of capturing is going to have a very important bearing on your mastering of current affairs. So you have to be both efficient and effective. How we will come to in a short while. So that's the first stage, that is capture. पहले content आपको जमा करना है, ठीक है? Second aspect is organize. Now, once you have captured content, then you must be able to organize that content. Now, organizing the content is going to be at 3 levels. First level is organizing based on issue. Like say, for example, currently there is a issue related to RCEP that is going on. Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. A lot of articles have come in the newspapers. A lot of news items have come. Now, on a daily basis, when you go through these news items and articles, your first task is to capture the relevant content out of it efficiently and effectively. Efficiently means you must do it in less time, as less time as possible, number one. And effectively means you must take only what is relevant from exam perspective. So time relates to efficiency and relevance relates to effectiveness. That is how you capture. Now, every day you will capture content regarding that particular issue as long as that issue continues in the newspapers. This is the first stage. Now, once the issue is over, after a few days, this coverage of RCP will stop. Then what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to organize. Okay? Now, how will you organize? Organizing is done at 3 levels. At the first level, you have to look at it like an issue. Develop an issue out of it. Issue of RCP. So how will you develop the issue? What is RCP? What is its background? Who are its members? Why did India not join? What are the pros of joining? What are the cons of joining? What is the China angle to it? What should be the future strategy of India? So all of these different kind of dimensions that you might have read in the articles, you're supposed to organize them neatly in a structured manner. That is the first level of organizing. Once you have organized the issue, then at second level, you have to add it to the syllabus related file. Divide the syllabus into macro and micro components, break it up, and whatever issue you develop, then file it accordingly in your syllabus related files. These could be physical files or they could be electronic files. That's the second level of organizing. The third level of organizing is preparing or building themes. Okay. So first level was building an issue. That issue is then filed according to the syllabus. That is the second level. And third level is theme. Now, what is a theme? Guys, theme is you can say an area on which UPSC asks questions across different papers. Okay? Let me give you an example here. Say, for example, gender justice. Okay? Gender justice is a theme that can be linked to society in GS paper 1. It can be linked to vulnerable sections in GS paper 2. It can be linked to GS paper 3 in terms of economy, inclusive development, so on and so forth. It can have ethical dimension in GS paper 4. There might be a full-fledged essay also which UPSC has very often asked in your essay papers. So a theme is an area on which UPSC asks questions and essays across papers. That's called as a theme. So first develop an issue, then file it according to the syllabus, and then link it to a overarching theme. That is the third level of organizing. So first was capturing content, second was organizing it into issue, syllabus classification, and linking with a theme. The third level, themes and issues, I will again come to at a later stage to develop how to develop them more in detail. Okay. The third stage of core strategy is to reflect. Okay. This is where what I had said initially, a thinking mind comes into play. Reflecting is once you have developed this content, you must sit and brainstorm over it, think over it, develop different interrelations within subjects, between subjects, link it with current affairs, revise it over and over again, discuss with your friends, discuss with your family. This is the process of reflecting. The more you reflect on current affairs like this, the more you will be able to internalize it. Those contents will then become organic. They will be a part of your thinking process. That's the third stage, that is reflect. And last part of the strategy is to engage. Now, what do I mean by engage? Engage here, guys, means using that content in your answer writing and essay writing. Okay? When there is a direct question, you must be able to draw from your content and reflect it in your answers. Or if a question is not directly asking, but there is some relevance to it, then you must be able to bring that content over there. When you're writing, say, a philosophical essay, you must be able to draw from the current issues, contemporary issues, and link with that philosophical essay. Okay? That is what I mean by engaging. This again requires active practice. Just having content is not going to help you. Okay? Capture, organize, reflect, and engage. This is the full loop of your current affairs related strategy. Okay? Core strategy, as I have described it. Okay? Now I will go into the details of these stages as to how you're supposed to practically execute it. Let us first start with the sources for preparation. So we are in the capture stage, guys, now. Okay? Where are you going to capture it from? First, we will see that, and then we will see how you will capture it. Sources of preparation. First and foremost, you must, on a daily basis, read at least one good quality newspaper. I can just go on and on about the importance of reading newspaper. Every day, without fail, read one good newspaper. The Hindu preferably, if not the Indian Express. Now, there is often a debate amongst candidates whether Hindu should be read or Indian Express should be read. I have a very unequivocal opinion that Hindu is the better option of the two. Okay, why so, and how you can optimize with both is what I will discuss now. First and foremost, the Hindu has a direct correlation with the questions and essays asked in UPSC, and therefore I suggest that Hindu should be prioritized. The editorials of the Hindu are exceptionally brilliant, and they give us fantastic analysis of the contemporary issues. And that is my second reason why you should prefer the Hindu. The third reason is the Hindu focuses on some very important themes of UPSC. These themes are relevant in your exam preparation, and hence the Hindu should be your choice for preparing current affairs. These are my three reasons. But the Hindu has one limitation. The limitation is that the language of Hindu is a little difficult. The vocabulary that they use is not that common vocabulary. Okay? They use sometimes difficult words. So those candidates who don't have a habit of reading, they initially find some of the words difficult. So in that case, you can start with the Indian Express with the ultimate aim of jumping to the Hindu. Make Hindu your base. The Indian Express has some advantages apart from being very simple and lucid. The language of Indian Express is quite simple. There are other advantages also. The Indian Express has a very good page called as explained page. The explained page has good content from prelims as well as mains perspective. So you can add that page along with the Hindu. Second thing, in Indian Express, the coverage of economy is much better compared to the Hindu. So for that reason, for economy, you can skip the economy from the Hindu and directly refer to the Indian Express. And thirdly, some very well-known experts write columns in the Indian Express, or they contribute regularly to the Indian Express articles. So for that reason also, Indian Express is a good alternative. Okay? What I do is try to have a golden mean between the two. Now, this is of course after a certain proficiency in reading newspaper. You can make Hindu as your base and refer to the good pages of Indian Express additionally. Now, I know this might be difficult to start with, and hence every day on my Telegram channel, Jawwad Kazi Current Affairs, I share important articles from the Hindu and Express which you must read. So you don't have to go and search content in the Indian Express. If you just follow me regularly, you will get the important articles that you are supposed to read from the Indian Express. And those few articles, 2 or 3 generally, are sufficient for you from the Indian Express related content. So this is the first and most important source from which you are supposed to capture the content. Second important source is government publications. Yojana, Kurukshetra most prominently, but apart from that, other publications like Budget, Economic Survey, Niti Aayog reports, India Yearbook, etc. are other publications of the Government of India which are very relevant and helpful in our preparation. You are supposed to take the gist, crisp content out of these resources. Remember, guys, do not waste your time in reading these resources cover to cover. They are not prepared keeping you, that is civil services aspirant, in mind. Okay? So instead of doing it by yourself, you can use our academy's class notes where we cover all of these resources very, very crisply. Economic Survey, Budget, Yearbook, Niti Aayog reports, all of these are covered very thoroughly by myself as well as other faculty of the academy. You can refer to our content for that. The third important resource is class material. At the end of the month, we provide you monthly notes of important issues and events that have taken place in that month. So you may, while reading the newspaper, miss out for various practical you can say aspects, some important dimensions from the newspaper. So the class material is like a filter that prevents any kind of slippage from your coverage. So class material is your third important resource. Fourthly, for value addition's sake, you can refer to debate shows on Rajya Sabha TV. Although the quality is not like what it used to be a few years ago, but still Rajya Sabha TV debates, they have maintained a basic standard. They do enable you to develop some perspectives regarding some current issues that are going on right now. Okay? Don't watch the shouting matches that go on in the name of debates these days on news media channels. Okay? Those are not of any help in terms of your exam preparation. Okay? Watch good quality debates only. Now let me come to the specificities regarding how you are supposed to read the newspaper. What should be your strategy for reading the newspaper? First and foremost, let me emphasize here again, coverage, or you can say competence of syllabus and previous year's question papers is very important before you start reading newspaper from exam perspective. Unless you have thoroughly gone through the syllabus and PYQs, that is previous year's question papers, you will not be able to understand what you are supposed to read from the newspaper. So let that be your first step before you jump to newspaper reading. Second practical thing that I suggest is what is called as a time and place habit. Okay? Allocate a particular time of the day where you will be sitting in a specific place, and reading the newspaper. I suggest that every day allocate 90 minutes, a 90-minute slot for the purpose of newspaper reading. In that 90-minute slot, come hell or high water, you will be seated at that particular place and reading the Hindu or Express newspaper. Never violate the sanctity of that 90-minute slot. Because once you get into that habit of reading newspaper at a place at a particular time, then you will develop efficiency in doing it. You will be able to do it effectively, that is read only relevant content, and that too in less time if you have this discipline of a 90-minute slot. If you do it randomly, then in that case, the efficiency and effectivity both will be compromised. And hence, I suggest the 90-minute slot and a time and place habit for that. Okay. Now, are 90 minutes sufficient? Well, for a trained eye, 90 minutes are more than enough for covering the newspaper. Okay, in terms of reading it. You will not require more than 90 minutes to read through the newspaper. I can vouch for this. If you are taking more time than that, then it shows that two things. Number one, either you are reading irrelevant stuff or your reading speed is very slow, or it might be both also. Okay? Reading irrelevant stuff or reading it very slow, or both. If you have developed competence over syllabus and PYQs, then the first part will be taken care of. You will never read irrelevant stuff if you are thorough with your syllabus and previous year's question papers. And the more experience you gain in terms of reading from exam perspective, the more fast you will become in terms of your reading speed as well. So both these aspects can be taken care of over the period of time. Now, how are you supposed to read the newspaper practically? Okay. Achha, by the way, I suggest that let these 90 minutes, the 90-minute slot of yours, let that be the last slot of your day. This is just a suggestion. You may or may not apply it. Why am I suggesting it to be the last slot of the day? See, if you keep it last slot of the day, after which you're going to go to the bed, then there is a bindingness on you to finish off that task within those 90 minutes. Otherwise, you will be compromising on your sleep, which I'm sure you would not like to. Okay? So when you have a clear-cut target, a deadline, then automatically you try to be more effective and efficient. Okay? And hence this practical suggestion of keeping it in the last slot of the day. Then next suggestion is the three-way reading method. What's the three-way reading method? See, when you start the newspaper, what you are supposed to do is have a marker in your hand, a dark marker. And starting with the first page, first tick on those news items which you feel are relevant from exam perspective. The first page and then followed by subsequent pages, you can go till the end. And in the first 5 to 7 minutes itself, first just identify what today is important from exam perspective. This helps you in two ways. If you do this identification in the first place itself, then there will be less likelihood that you will read unnecessary stuff. Often it so happens that you watched the cricket match yesterday, and today morning when you were reading the newspaper, you still go to the sports page and read the entire reportage on the yesterday's match. Does it not happen, guys? So to avoid this, it is very crucial that you bring a visual discipline of marking the content which is relevant from the exam perspective. Okay? So this really helps you a lot. And secondly, second benefit of this is upfront, initially itself, it gives you a complete idea of the tasks that you are having at hand in the next 90 minutes. Once you have ticked those items, you know that you are supposed to read 9, 12, or 13 items today. Based on the number of items, then you can adjust or manage your speed of reading also. So these are the benefits of identifying in the first reading. In the first reading, just read the title and tick on those items that are relevant. That's the first way reading. Second way reading is where you actually read the entire news item and underline the relevant content out of it. Okay? Whatever is relevant from the exam perspective, underline it with a pen, or if you're doing it on a laptop, you can do it with a highlighter also. Okay? So in the second way, you read the relevant items and underline and highlight whatever is relevant within them. Okay? Once you are done with the second way, then you come to the third way reading. In the third way reading, you are supposed to make notes out of the relevant items that you have highlighted. Okay? Whatever you felt was important from exam perspective, you can make notes out of it. But here, remember very clearly. Remember this point, guys. Never forget this. Avoid making prelims bits based notes. You are not supposed to make notes from prelims perspective. You are supposed to make notes only from mains perspective. Generally, this will come from articles only. Now, why do I say you are not supposed to make notes from prelims perspective? Did I not say that current affairs are important from prelims? Yes, they are. But making notes from prelims perspective is wasting time. Because at the end of the month, the academy is going to provide you with comprehensive notes which will cover all the bits which are relevant from prelims perspective. Then by doing it yourself, you are only duplicating the effort. So why should you duplicate the effort? You can very well just read through it and rely on the class material or notes which will be sufficient from prelims perspective. Instead, your focus must be on larger contemporary issues which are going on. You must understand different facts, perspectives, and build up an opinion. So making notes from mains perspective is what is advisable, not from prelims perspective. Link these notes then with overarching themes. How we are supposed to do that, we will see it in due course. Now let me share some basic aspects regarding what should be your focus while reading the newspaper and what you should avoid. While reading the Hindu, you are supposed to focus on syllabus related nationally and internationally relevant news items. These could be acts that governments pass, governance related issues, policy decisions by government, geophysical phenomena, various developments related to economy, international or bilateral happenings that involve or impact India, various social issues that might be going on, security concerns of India, scientific breakthroughs, etc. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, of course, but just to give you an overview, what all different kind of areas that one is supposed to focus on. How will you be able to decide what is important or no? Again, you will be able to decide based on syllabus and PYQs. Syllabus tells you what is important, okay, from UPSC perspective, and previous year's questions tell you how UPSC can ask questions based on that. So both of these will help you to focus on what is relevant from exam perspective. Now, what you are supposed to avoid. Avoid purely political news. News that is related to, say, just politics between, say, parties. Like, for example, X party criticizes Y. Okay? If that criticism does not have any relevance to our larger polity, then that criticism is not important from exam perspective. Okay? Avoid regional news also. Regional news, if there is something that is happening which is very important at regional level, it is covered in the nation's page, national level news. So avoid regional news because there is very low likelihood of any question being asked from there. You can skip that. Avoid crime and sensational news stories. Say, for example, Sushant Singh Rajput case and the sensationalism around it. Okay? So avoid the sensationalism. What you can focus on is if there are any larger issues that are involved over there. So there were some issues related to investigation agencies. There were some issues related to maybe federal aspect. Okay? So such things can be relevant from exam perspective. But the case per se and the way it was presented in the media, all that sensationalism and yellow journalism is not relevant from exam perspective. Okay? So avoid those kind of elements in the news stories. Now let me come to some specific pages of the Hindu and how you are supposed to deal with them. First and foremost, city and regional pages. Avoid these pages completely, at least in your initial preparation phase. City and regional pages are not important from your exam perspective because we are looking for national level events and issues. Then another important page from the Hindu is Science and Tech. This is a weekly page that comes in the Hindu, which has good content, mostly from prelims perspective. Whatever latest technological breakthroughs are taking place or discoveries are being made, those are covered in this page. Here you can get good content for your prelims exam and sometimes from mains perspective also. But there's a caveat while preparing or content from this page. Science and tech related content on this page is very facts heavy. We don't need those many facts. So while covering or reading this page, you are supposed to be very, very careful. Study only those technological developments which are going to have a bigger impact on our collective national life, as I said. And within that technology, you are supposed to study more of its application. How is that relevant to humanity? That is what is more important. Okay? Or if it's a discovery, then what is the implication of that discovery? That is what UPSC wants to see. UPSC generally focuses on the larger picture. So in our coverage also, we must not miss the larger picture, the applications and implications of discoveries and technologies. Then there comes a page called as Ground Report, which is again a weekly page in the Hindu. The Ground Report is another page that you can completely skip. Ground Report mostly is an investigative report on an issue that is going on right now. Since it is based on investigative journalism, it is more fact heavy rather than perspective heavy. Whatever few perspectives are covered in this page, those are generally covered in the articles and editorials already. So you can completely skip this Ground Report page from the Hindu. Then let's talk about the World page. The World page is another very important page about which candidates have a lot of confusion. A lot of candidates initially at least feel that they are supposed to be updated with all the developments of the world. That is not so, guys. You are supposed to be updated with those developments where either India is involved or India is affected. Okay? If India is involved, then it becomes part of bilateral relations, which we are supposed to study. Or if we are not involved, but we are affected, then again, we need to study. Like for example, RCEP. We have declined last year to be a part of it. But still, RCEP is relevant for India. RCEP next door is going to have an economic impact on the entire Indo-Pacific region. India cannot remain aloof from it. So we need to study developments regarding RCEP. So remember guys, whenever you're reading the world page, ask yourself whether this news item is regarding an issue in which India is involved. If not, is it about India being impacted or will India get impacted because of it? If yes, only then read it, otherwise skip it. Next is economy. Guys, the Hindu has a poor actually coverage of the economy from exam perspective. The Hindu's focus is more on business and less on economy. And therefore, I suggest that you can skip the Hindu completely and focus on the Indian Express's economy page. Indian Express has a much better coverage from exam perspective. So in economy, we are supposed to study policies of the finance ministry, various schemes and initiatives, decisions of the Reserve Bank of India, important developments in different sectors of the economy, so on and so forth. And Indian Express does a fairly good job at this. But avoid covering business related news. For example, quarterly performance of so and so company has improved or reduced. New product, say a mobile or a bike launched in the market. Such stuff is also covered in newspapers. That is not relevant for us. We are concerned with the larger economic developments. Next is showcase. The Hindu has this page called as showcase, which covers entertainment type masala items. So items related to, say, movies, Bollywood, drama, culture, all of these things. These are not relevant items from the exam perspective. So you can completely skip the showcase page also. Sports pages. These pages are generally favorites of many candidates. And the Hindu before pandemic used to have a massive coverage of sports based pages. Sometimes six pages were devoted to sports. Now, if you have a hobby of reading it, if you like reading it, I have no qualms in you spending time on this page, but keep that separate. Let that not violate our 90-minute slot. Do your job of reading the newspaper completely from exam perspective, and then after that, you can go and read sports pages. Sports pages are not relevant from the exam perspective. UPSC does not now ask, I mean, since last more than 10 years, UPSC has not asked questions based on, say, sporting events. Okay? If there is a larger issue involved in sports, like if there is some match fixing related scandal that has taken place, or if there is some big reform, like the Lodha committee had taken place in BCCI had appointed Lodha committee. Okay? So if something of that sort takes place, then there is a likelihood of question. But even in that case, those developments are covered on the editorial pages. So you don't have to read the sports pages for that aspect. So sporting events per se are not relevant. Then life and supplements. Now life these days in the pandemic period, the Hindu has hardly any coverage, half a page, quarter sometimes regarding life. You can skip that completely as well. And the Hindu supplements also generally have very low effort to return ratio. Okay, you get very little related to the exam. So you can skip the supplements also of Hindu completely. Okay. The editorial pages, I'm coming to them separately because they are very, very important. Let us see what you can take from Indian Express. You can selectively use or read some pages from the Indian Express. The explained page is a very good resource for a threadbare understanding of some current developments. In question answer format, in a very lucid manner, they explain a development that has taken place. So explained is a must page for your preparation. Then economy, as I already mentioned. Apart from this, selectively you can read editorials and opposite to editorials, op-ed page of the Indian Express. But here you have to be careful because you need to read only what is relevant from the exam. And for this purpose, you can follow my Telegram channel where I give a daily update on what you're supposed to read in that day's Indian Express. Now let me come to the editorial and opposite to editorial page of the Hindu. These two pages are very, very important in your preparation, guys. If, say, for example, on a particular day, you don't have the time to read the newspaper, I will suggest that you should at least read these two pages. If you can't read the full newspaper, at least read these two pages. And of course, when I say read these two pages, I mean read whatever is relevant on these two pages. Okay? Just because something is there on the editorial page or opposite to editorial page does not mean that it is relevant from exam perspective. You must keep your antennas of the exam on while selecting articles and editorials. These, why are they so important? Why do I stress so much on reading these pages? Number one, they provide extremely valuable analysis of an issue that is going on. A development that is taking place, like for example, the issue of love jihad, okay, or interfaith marriage, if I may put it other way, is in news right now. Okay? How should we look at that issue? From constitutional perspective, from legal perspective, from social perspective. Analysis regarding that is covered in editorials and articles of the Hindu. So it gives or breaks down a complex issue into its subpart and explains it to you. It helps you to develop perspectives regarding that issue. But what do I mean by perspectives? Perspectives means how you should look at that. Okay? Socially, economically, politically, legally, ethically, morally, All of these are different perspectives. So how should you look at that issue from these different dimensions is what you get in these articles and editorials. Thirdly, they give you a lot of value addition content also. Data, examples, case studies, case laws, all of these are value addition related content. This value addition content brings about difference in your answers as well as essays. These pages, edit and opposite to editorial pages, provide exceptionally good value addition related content. Also, guys, they help you to improve your expression. Okay? As we saw initially, UPSC wants to see logical and clear exposition. So when you write your answers or when you orally say your answers in the interview, your articulation must be logical and clear. When you read these editorials and articles, you are able to develop that logical and clear exposition. Now, guys, let us come to how to understand an editorial or an article. Guys, editorial or an article basically has 5 parts. Since a lot of candidates face difficulty in reading editorials and articles, let me break it down for you what these editorials or articles comprise and what you are supposed to take out of them. Okay? Number 1 is the title of that editorial or article. Generally, to attract the attention of the reader, to make it more interesting, the writer gives a catchy kind of a title. And we are not able to often understand what that article is about by just reading the title. Okay? So read the title, then move to the next stage, which is subtitle or central premise. The subtitle is generally the central premise of that article. What do I mean by central premise? If the writer was to summarize everything that he wants to say in a single line, okay, that is the central premise of that article. And that is generally given below the title of that article. It helps us to understand basically what is the stand of that writer. Okay? So understand the central premise of what the writer wants to say. Third are the various macro dimensions that the writer covers in his writing. Related to that central premise, the writer will take up 5 to 7 macro dimensions on which he is going to present his perspectives. Now, just to give you an example, suppose a writer writes an article where he wants to say that the age of marriage for women should not be raised to 21. Okay? So this is his central premise, that the age of marriage for women should not be raised to 21. It must be retained at 18. Now, regarding this central premise, he will take up 5 macro dimensions, 5 to 7. It varies, of course, across different articles. What will be these macro dimensions? There might be an education-related dimension. There might be an economy-related dimension. There might be a social dimension to it, cultural or traditional dimension to it, political and legal dimension to it. These will be the macro points or dimensions on which the article will stand. Okay? Based on these micro dimensions, then the writer provides us with certain perspectives. Now, what are perspectives? From a social angle, why the age should not be raised, the writer will give us some points regarding that. That is called as perspective. Dekhne ka drishtikon. Okay? So across all of these dimensions, the writer will give us some perspectives: political, social, economic, technological, that can vary. Okay? Now, to support these perspectives, he will provide some substantiation. What is substantiation? Substantiation is supporting facts, data, statistics, reports, anecdotal evidence, judgments, etc. All of these are provided to support the perspectives that the writer is giving. These perspectives are related to certain dimensions, and these dimensions are linked to his central premise. This is how an article is built up. Now, when you read the article, your focus must be to break it down in this manner. सेंट्रली राइटर क्या कहना चाह रहा है, वो उसके रिलेटेड कौन से डायमेंशंस की बात कर रहा है, उन डायमेंशंस में क्या पर्सपेक्टिव्स दिए जा रहे हैं और उनके सपोर्ट में क्या डेटा फैक्ट्स वगैरह मिल रहा है। ठीक है, हमारे लिए आर्टिकल्स में सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है ये पर्सपेक्टिव्स, दृष्टिकोण। ठीक है, फिलहाल में चल रहे किसी भी इशू के ऊपर में एडिटोरियल और आर्टिकल्स में से क्या लेना है हमको, वी आर सपोज टू टेक दीज पर्सपेक्टिव्स। ठीक है, by reading these articles and editorials you are supposed to make or jot down the different perspectives. Generally candidates get bogged down by this part, substantiation part, the data, facts, case studies, examples, judgments, and one feels that you are not understanding the article or you are not able to take what is relevant from exam perspective. What are you supposed to take? You're supposed to take the dristikon, the perspectives. Okay? All of these are only for support. Maybe you can take a few to just add some value. Okay? But remember, in the exam hall, there are limitations on how much facts you can reproduce. So you have to be very choosy when you take this content, the substantiation part. Okay? Perspectives, it is easy to remember because that is a way of looking at something. For that, you don't have to buy heart things. You can understand those things. But substantiation part, you have to buy heart it. And by hearting, human memory has limitations. Okay? So be very choosy about this, but try to take as many perspectives as are relevant from exam perspective. So I hope you got this, what you are supposed to take from an article or an editorial. While doing this, your language competence certainly does matter. Okay? When you are reading articles and editorials, if you are having some issues regarding language, which very often candidates have, there are a few things that you can focus on. First is syntax. बहुत दफा ये होता है दोस्तों कि मैं देखता हूं जिन कैंडिडेट्स ने आइदर वर्नैक्युलर मीडियम से पढ़ाई की है या उनका स्कूलिंग में इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज का ग्रामर अच्छा नहीं रहा है, they have not understood the syntax of the English language. अब ये syntax क्या है? Syntax is the structure of sentence of any language. ठीक है? English has a peculiar syntax. हिंदी मराठी का syntax अलग है, structuring of sentence. English का syntax कैसा है? Subject, verb, object. राम subject, killed, verb, रावण object. ठीक है? ये English का syntax है. हिंदी मराठी का कैसे है? राम ने रावणास मारले. ठीक है? राम is the subject, रावण is the object and मारले is the verb, क्रिया. ठीक है? तो इंग्लिश और बाकी लैंग्वेजेस का सिंटैक्स अलग है. अगर आपने इंग्लिश का सिंटैक्स अगर आपके दिमाग में बैठा नहीं है तो फिर इंग्लिश रीड करते हुए आपको दिक्कत आती है. तो इसलिए पहले आप थोड़ा बेसिक सिंटैक्स इंग्लिश का आप देखिए, उसको समझिए और फिर उसके बाद में न्यूज़पेपर रीड करना आपके लिए ज्यादा आसान होगा. Second problem is with vocabulary development. Okay? Very often, if you have not had a good reading habit, then you will come across several new words when you read the newspaper. So for that sake, I suggest that you parallelly work on your vocabulary also. How you can do that? Every day, write down at least 5 new words that you come across in the newspaper. Okay? If you do this exercise rigorously, then over just few months, you will develop a strong vocabulary which will help you to understand the write-ups of that particular newspaper. Because those same words keep coming repetitively. Okay? Initially, it seems difficult, but over the period of time, the exercise goes on reducing and your vocabulary competence increases. Third thing that you must focus on while reading newspaper is keywords in terms of language. Keywords. There are some keywords regarding specific themes which you must try to incorporate in your notes and then into your answers and essays. Now, every theme will have certain keywords. Let me give you an example. Power sector के ऊपर articles कुछ हफ्ते पहले चल रहे थे, ठीक है? In the power sector, plant load factor is a very important metric, ठीक है? So when you make your notes, if plant load factor is not reflected in your notes, then it will not come in your answers. And if it is not there in your answer, then you will not be able to fetch good marks. So sector specific, there are a few good keywords that you must emphasize on while reading the newspaper and make it a point to note in your notes. Then next thing that you must focus on is flow. I have been correcting mains related papers of recently, and one thing that I often find lacking is flow in writing. ठीक है, फ्लो, अगर आपके राइटिंग के अंदर में फ्लो नहीं होगा तो फिर आपकी राइटिंग स्कैटर्ड लगने लगती है. ठीक है, उसके अंदर में बहाव नहीं होता. फ्लो किस चीज को कहते हैं कि एक मुद्दे से दूसरा मुद्दा कनेक्टेड तरीके से एक के बाद एक निकलता चला जा रहा है. ठीक है, दैट कीप्स द रीडर और लिसनर रिवेटेड टू यू. अगर फ्लो नहीं होगा तो फिर आप रीडर का अटेंशन होल्ड नहीं कर पाते हैं, चाहे वो ऐसे हो या आंसर हो. न्यूज़पेपर रीड करते हुए, खास तौर पे एडिटोरियल और ऑपेड आर्टिकल्स रीड करते हुए, आपको फ्लो के ऊपर में भी फोकस करना चाहिए. किस तरीके से उस आर्टिकल या एडिटोरियल के अंदर में एक के बाद एक मुद्दों को लिया गया है. एंड देन लास्टली, बिल्डिंग अ केस विद आर्गुमेंट्स. यूपीएससी ऑफ्टन आस्क्स यू टू टेक साइड, टू टेक ओपिनियन. In essay also, there is a line of argument that you are supposed to take often. Now, when you take such a line of argument, when you debate or argue, you must have this ability of building up a case, supporting your stand with logical arguments, with data, facts, etc. Now, when you read the newspaper, when you read the editorials and articles, you must specifically see how the writer is building up a case or building up an argument. Okay, that will help you to develop your writing skills as well. So these are a few language related inputs that you can incorporate while preparing current affairs. But please remember guys, for UPSC you don't need a flowery language. What do I mean by flowery language? You don't need heavy words, you don't need novel like language. You're supposed to write in basic simple English only. Okay, so don't worry about using heavy words per se or making things complicated. Okay? Simplicity is the real sophistication. The more simple you write, the more appealing and attractive it becomes. Now let me come to building up contemporary issues. Okay? How are you supposed to build up contemporary issue? A contemporary issue is basically a topic that connects current events and involves multiple perspectives and debates. ठीक है, कंटेम्पररी इशू ये मल्टीपल इवेंट्स को लिंक करके एक लार्जर इशू बनाता है. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल, अभी रिसेंटली आरसीपी रिलेटेड न्यूज के अंदर में काफी सारे इवेंट्स हो रहे थे. या फॉर और अगर हम दूसरा एग्जांपल लें तो फाइनेंशियल एक्शन टास्क फोर्स और पाकिस्तान, इनके बीच में जो फिलहाल में इशू चल रहा है, FATF has put Pakistan on the grey list. ठीक है, now that many developments regarding that had taken place recently. Now that is part of a larger issue of terror funding. ठीक है, so a contemporary issue is something that connects multiple events and involves multiple perspectives and debates. For example, police reforms, judicial reforms, labor reforms, water crisis, all of these are examples of contemporary issues. Now, how will you identify contemporary issues? Basically, when an issue is consistently covered in editorials, articles, and debate shows, and it is linked to our syllabus, then we can say that this issue is a contemporary issue for our exam. So the simple way of identifying it is, number one, syllabus relevance, and number two, its consistent coverage in editorials, articles, and debate shows. If it meets these criteria, then we are supposed to prepare it thoroughly. Now, how should we prepare it? Whenever we take up a contemporary issue, first understand the immediate context of that. Like say, for example, urban flooding. This is a contemporary issue. In October, we saw how the city of Hyderabad was flooded massively. Okay? Now, that was the immediate context that once again showed how our cities are vulnerable to this form of disaster of urban flooding. Earlier, we had seen Chennai, before that Mumbai, Srinagar, Gurgaon, many of our cities, Pune last year. So many of our cities have seen this problem. The immediate context was Hyderabad. Then we understand the background of that issue, how that issue has developed over the period of time. After understanding the background, we can then delineate technical information or dimensions regarding that issue. Okay? Then we can see the different debates and perspectives if there are any regarding that issue. Like say, for example, continuing the earlier example of raising the marriage age of for women. Now there is a debate whether it should be done or it should not be done. There are points ranged on either side. So we must understand points from either side, the pros and cons of both the sides, so that we can thoroughly understand the debate around it. After we understand the debate, then we have to come to solutions and ideas. What kind of solution and ideas we can provide to solve that problem or deal with that challenge. So if we are supposed to avoid urban flooding, then what are the steps that we must take? These are part of the solutions and ideas. And lastly, conclusion. We must be able to develop our own opinion on that issue, which will be part of our conclusion. So in this manner, we can prepare contemporary issues. To give you a clear-cut idea, I will suggest that you can download monthly notes of the Unique Academy from our website, or they are available on our Telegram channel also. My personal channel as well as our UPSC channel of UPSC Campus SB Road. You can just search them and download the notes from there and read for yourself how contemporary issues are built up. In these notes, generally we cover 15 to 20 such contemporary issues every month. Once you have prepared an issue thoroughly in this manner, then after that you can take up answer writing or essay writing related to that issue. Take up any question related to that issue. Maybe you can frame it yourself, or such questions are now available online in abundance, and try to attempt an answer based on it. If that issue has sufficient depth, then you can take up an essay also related to that issue and write a full-fledged essay as well on it. In this manner, you can cover contemporary issues. Now let me come to the next aspect of theme preparation. Remember, we spoke about the core strategy. First was capture. We dealt with that. Then we are seeing now organizing it. Okay? So first level of organizing is whatever content you have captured, build an issue out of it. Second level of capturing is file it related to syllabus according to the syllabus. And at third level, you're supposed to prepare themes. Now, how you are going to prepare themes and what is a theme in the first place? Let us understand that. A theme is a broad idea that recurs in different forms in UPSC questions across GS papers and maybe essays also. It is like an overarching background in which contemporary issues and events take place. Okay? I have given you here, for the sake of example, 30 themes on which UPSC has repetitively asked questions and essays. I will suggest that you take a screenshot of the screen. Agriculture, banking, constitutional morality, climate change, digital governance, democracy, education, employment, energy, so on and so forth. These are the multiple themes on which UPSC repetitively asks questions. You must be able to build up this larger theme. So agriculture, across all its facets, you must be able to develop a small note of maybe say 8 to 10 pages with all the issues and events in it. Okay. Now this will cut across different papers. As I mentioned here, a theme is a broad idea that recurs in different forms in UPSC question across GS papers and essay. So it is not specific to a particular paper or a syllabus specific point. It can occur across different papers, across different syllabus related points. So these are the themes. Now, how can you prepare the themes? You can prepare the themes using standard government related reference material. India Yearbook, Economic Survey, Budget, Niti Aayog strategy document, and standard reference material can be your basic reference for it. And along with that, the contemporary issues that are in news. So for example, if you're preparing gender, okay, the theme of gender, then go to India Yearbook and see the chapter for women and child development. Okay, chapters are based on ministries. Prepare the basic structures, schemes, policies, initiatives of Government of India related to that theme. Then come to Economic Survey. Economic Survey Volume 1 often gives you the policy challenges related to these themes. So prepare those policy challenges and solutions that the survey gives. Then you can see the budget and see some provisions that the government has made for that particular theme. You can then see Niti Aayog strategy document. I have provided the notes of these on our Telegram channels. You can download those notes also. Niti Aayog strategy documents gives you these themes, in fact, 42 such themes, in fact, in the form of chapters. So you can refer to that particular document. And then you can use any standard reference material wherever it is relevant regarding traditional syllabus related points. Link that with contemporary issues, and you have your theme prepared for that particular year's attempt. You can add a lot of value addition related things related to that theme, like for example, reports and ranking. Gender gap report, for example, related to gender justice, an important report is the gender gap report that can be used for gender justice. Or if you're doing, say, ease of doing business theme, then we have the ease of doing business report. We have the innovation related rankings in the world. So all of these things can be used for adding value. Reports and ranking, statistics, good quotes, case studies, case laws, policies and schemes, all of these can be integrated into your theme preparation. Okay? Now, just to give you a visual schematic flow of how this process goes on, first we capture content from primary sources. Then we develop a contemporary issue out of it, which is linked to syllabus. And from that, we build up a larger theme. This is the process of current affairs preparation in a schematic representation. Okay? So I hope that gives you more clarity regarding how it is supposed to be done. Now, lastly, let me come to some frequently asked questions. First and foremost, a commonly asked question is, should I read the newspaper myself or rely on various YouTube discussions that are there? Now here, guys, I want to suggest to you that you can definitely use additional resources, but the caveat is read the newspaper yourself every day. After you read the newspaper, then you can rely on any resource for that matter. That is not an issue. But without reading the newspaper, if you do it, then you will not be able to develop your understanding. You will not be able to develop language competence. It will not be that organic inside you. Okay? So for that, I suggest that you read the newspaper first by yourself, and then after that, you can rely on any resource that you wish to use. A second frequently asked question is, how much time should I spend on reading the newspaper? So I'll again repeat myself. 90 minutes is generally sufficient for completing your newspaper related task. Initially, maybe 90 plus 30 minutes. For notes making extra, you can take 30 minutes. 2 hours is more than sufficient for your newspaper related task. If you're taking more than 2 hours, then either you are reading unnecessary stuff or you are taking too much time for it, or maybe both also. So avoid that, and you should certainly be able to finish it off in 90 minutes. Should I read it online or offline? A lot of candidates do ask this question. It comes down to your personal choice, swad anusar, if I may say that. So it is your personal comfort level, whatever you are comfortable at, reading a physical paper or an e-paper. I personally prefer an e-paper, PDFs, because it's handy to store. Okay, it does not create a clutter in your room, and it's easy to retrieve also. So I will suggest that you can subscribe PDF e-paper of the Hindu. It's cheap also. Okay, physical paper costs a lot more. The e-paper is much more cheaper. Should notes be prepared in softwares like OneNote or Evernote? Again, here it comes down to your comfort level. If you're more comfortable in physical notes, absolutely fine with that. And if you're comfortable with e-notes, that's also no issue with that. I personally prefer e-notes because they are much more easy to handle. Okay? Storing them, processing them, retrieving them, all of these things are very easily done if you have e-notes. And these days with cloud computing, you don't have to fear about losing them also because they are stored in the cloud. You can use your account to get them back on any device. OneNote and Evernote, both are very good softwares. You can use either of them. Both have their own advantages as well as some minor disadvantages also. Lastly, how do I revise my notes? This is often asked by candidates. Yes, reflecting and engaging. These are the last two parts of our core strategy that we saw. Reflecting on that is very, very crucial. If you have prepared a lot of content but you did not reflect on it, it is not going to help you any bit. Make some time out of your schedule, weekly schedule, for reflecting and revising the content that you have prepared. Okay? It is much better to read less and revise more rather than to read more and revise less. Okay? In this exam, you are supposed to write answers in 150 to 250 words. So in terms of content that you're supposed to produce there is a very small, you can say, expectation. But the area or canvas of that is wide. And therefore, revision becomes very, very crucial. Okay? So I will suggest that weekly in your calendar, there must be a particular slot. It could be in a particular day, or it can be spread out across a few days, where you will compulsorily sit and revise what you have prepared. If you don't revise, then all of that effort can become meaningless. And hence, it's very crucial. So these are the few questions that I often get asked regarding preparing current affairs. So I have answered those. We are starting a new batch from the 1st of December, and the initial lectures regarding this batch will be free open demo lectures. So if you wish to register, the details are available in the description box below. Do join us for the demo lectures so that you can have even more detailed idea regarding individual subjects that are part of the UPSC syllabus. Thank you very much.
Subscribe the Unique Academy's YouTube channel and press the bell icon for latest updates and videos.